Moving to a new city can be exciting, but let's be honest, it can also go completely sideways. I've heard stories of people making costly, stressful, and life-altering mistakes when moving to Coquitlam, and I am here today to make sure that that doesn't happen to you. So, in today's video, we're going to be going over the top 5 most common mistakes that people make when relocating to Coquitlam. So whether you're buying, selling, relocating, or just doing some research, these things are non-negotiable. And stick around for the 5th one because it's a really common one that most people don't even know they're making. So sit down, grab some coffee, and let's jump into it. And for tip number 1, we have picking the wrong neighborhood. Now, Coquitlam is a large area, but it is made up of several distinct pockets, and each of these neighborhoods does have its own vibe. So let's touch on a few of these. And the first one we're going to talk about is Burke Mountain. It is a quiet, family-oriented neighborhood. Generally, you do see newer builds in the area, both in terms of single-family homes, but as well as townhomes. Now, somebody moving to this area might not like the fact that it is more isolated than some of the other areas. You are further away from rapid transit. You do have bus service there, obviously, and there are fewer shops and other amenities in the area. So you're most likely not going to be walking to go do your grocery shopping. Now, it's not quite, Frodo taking the ring to Mount Doom levels of walking, but if you're living here, you're going to want to make sure that you have a vehicle, or you're okay with using the bus to get to a larger transit hub. It's also a bit of a hillier neighborhood, so great for exercise, but not so great if you are not a fan of hills. And the next area is Mallardville, and this neighborhood is full of charm and characterized by some older character homes. Now, if you're looking for a neighborhood with some newer, more modern builds, this might not be your first choice. One thing this area does have, though, that is really great is it has a great walkability score. You'll have access to all sorts of amenities, shopping, pubs, restaurants, schools. It's all there and all quite close, and that is one of the key strengths of this neighborhood. Although you will have to consider that it is a busier area, both in terms of traffic around the neighborhood and in terms of current development and future development. And the third area we're going to touch on is Westwood Plateau. Beautiful area, stunning views, but hilly. Just ask your quads. It's a quiet area, it is more upscale and great for both families as well as golf lovers because you have the Westwood Plateau Golf Course just up the road there. One thing you are going to want to consider that many people don't think about here is because of its higher elevation, it does see higher levels of snow in the wintertime. So if that's something that really bothers you, you may want to pass on Westwood, but if that's not going to bother you, this is an absolutely fantastic area in Coquitlam. So, if you're going to pick a neighborhood based on budget alone, you may end up in a great house that you really like, but the neighborhood might not suit your lifestyle. I always say to people, you can always renovate the home, but you can't change your neighborhood, and that's why picking the right neighborhood is going to be absolutely key. Mistake number 2 is underestimating commute times. Coquitlam is fairly centrally located, and that is one of the great strengths of the area. But if you're somebody who is making a commute, you're going to want to make sure that it's one you're comfortable with if you're moving here. SkyTrain access is fantastic, and a lot of neighborhoods in Coquitlam do have access to it. However, areas like Burke Mountain, Westwood Plateau, and River Springs are not as close as you'd like. Bus service is available, but does add time. The West Coast Express is also another option you have, and it's great if you're a downtown commuter, but if your job has odd hours, it's not going to work for you because the West Coast Express runs at peak hours. And while we all know that Google Maps is great, we also know that it isn't always reality. If you look at a commute time at 10 a.m. and it takes you half an hour, well, you and I both know that if you're trying to make that same commute at 7:30, it could take you over an hour. Don't just look at Google Maps once and assume that's what it's going to be like. In fact, a pro tip I have for you is to actually make the commute you want to make during your commute hours from the area that you're thinking about living in. It will help give you a much more realistic idea of what the commute is going to look like. And if you're somebody who's relocating from out of town, let's say from somewhere else within the province or even out of province, you're going to want to use those Google Maps features such as like leave at this time to help give you a better idea, because people from out of town can often underestimate what the bottlenecks on Highway 1 or Lougheed will look like during those peak hours. So, unless your dream is to finish an entire podcast series in one drive, you're going to want to do these things just to make sure it is something you're going to be comfortable with. Mistake number 3 is misjudging school catchments. And in Coquitlam, this one is particularly important because not only does Coquitlam have some fantastic French immersion programs, but it also does have some highly sought after schools that have people wanting to move here specifically for them. Those schools are Dr. Charles Best and Heritage Woods. And School District 43 does have some pretty rigid school catchment lines. We'll take Mundy Park, for example. You could have homes on opposite sides of the streets that will fall into different school catchments. So you'd be very disappointed if you decided to move to an area because you want your kids to get into a really great school, because that's what most parents want for their kids, only to find out that you're not actually in the catchment for the school you want. My pro tip is to use the School District 43 catchment indicator online. You can always ask your agent to check, but I also highly recommend that you do this yourself just for your own peace of mind. And the 4th mistake that many buyers make is not looking into rezoning and development permits. Many buyers aren't even familiar with what the Coquitlam official community plan even is. So this is something that we are going to want to look at, because let's say you bought a home and you have a beautiful green belt on the back and you're expecting that to be there forever. Well, you'd be pretty upset if 18 months in, all of a sudden they're building a 6-story low-rise right behind your house. That is not the life you signed up for. So this is why it is very important to look into what areas there are development permits being pulled in, because Coquitlam is one of the cities that is trying to rapidly densify, and there have been a lot of changes provincially that allow this to happen. Plus, there's been the introduction of TOAs, which allows for far more density around transit hubs, so areas like Coquitlam Station, along the Austin Heights, as well as Lougheed Town Center, that will see a lot of growth and expansion. And if you want a lifestyle that is peace and quiet, you're probably going to want to avoid moving to those areas. There is also the changes that were made last year that allows for small scale development. And this can include lots of a certain size, certain dimensions that can allow for anywhere from 2 to 4 to 6 units to be built on a single lot. So, this is a duplex, quadplex, etc. While this was aimed as a measure to try increase housing affordability, it's also going to create more people, more cars, and more density in the areas where you are seeing these homes pop up. So it is just really important to see, hey, the area that I'm moving to, is this going to be a reality in a couple of years? Or are you moving to an area that is insulated against something like this? So if you are curious about what the OCP is, or you have questions about it, let me know on here and I'll make sure I get you the OCP. And mistake number 5 is trying to navigate this all by yourself. I hear stories and I see it quite a bit. People want to do it themselves, and hey, you should absolutely start to do your own homework and do what you can. However, when I'm talking to my clients, I always offer my services as a partner, not as a salesperson, because you want to be informed, you want to be supported, and you want somebody to help you spot the landmines before you even get close to stepping on them. And working with somebody that you like and somebody you trust, whether that's me or not, is something I highly recommend, because they have gone through this with other people and they know what the problems down the road are going to be before you've even considered what they might be. And if you're looking at strata properties, I know there are some people out there who really do like going through depreciation reports. I'm actually one of them, but most people don't want to take the time to go through a 150-page document to read through something they're not even remotely familiar with. So yeah, that's the 5th one. Don't navigate it yourself. Find somebody you like and trust and go from there, because they're going to really help save you some time and some stress, not only now, but also down the road. So there you have it, the top 5 biggest mistakes that people make when moving to Coquitlam. You have the knowledge, but don't stop there. Whether you're relocating, buying, selling, or just thinking about making a move, I'd love to connect with you. Every week, I have people just like you reach out to help plan their next steps. Let's make your next move the right one. You can either call me down at my phone number or click on one of the links down below and reach out to me from there. And hey, if you found this information helpful, give me a like and a subscribe and drop a comment down below. I'm really curious to see, what did you find most surprising about these 5 mistakes, or were there some mistakes that you feel that I missed? And as always, I'm Damian Marks, your local Coquitlam expert here, and See you in the next one.